Dear students, good morning to all. I welcome to the class. Last class we have seen about the introduction to kinesiology and biomechanics. In this class we are going to discuss about introduction to sports biomechanics. Now we will start with kinematics. What is the meaning of kinematics? It is nothing but the study of motion without considering the force that causes it. It is a branch of mechanics and it describes the geometry of motion including displacement, velocity and acceleration. The major difference between the kinematics and kinetics is the study of force. Here we did not discuss about the force, and kinetics will discuss about the force. This is the difference, a big difference between the kinematics and the kinetics. Here kindly you see, we will not consider the without considering the forces and the causes. Here we are discussing about only the displacement, how the object move from one place to another place. For example, if a runner move from start to up to finish, that is called as displacement. Velocity, what is his speed from first 10 meters and second 10 meters, what is his speed, that is comes under velocity. And acceleration, how he accelerate, what is the acceleration between the start to 50 meters, then 50 meters to 100 meters. If we will discuss about these measurements, this is called as kinematics. Here we did not discuss about the force. This is the major difference between the kinetics and kinematics. So without considering the force is called as kinematics. Here we will discuss about only the geometry of motion. What is the nature of motion we will discuss. So that is called as kinematics. In sports, kinematics is used to analyze the motion of athletes to improve their technique and performance. Yes, here what is his nature of movement, how he moves from one place to another place, first 10 meters, second 10 meters, and what is his leg length, what is his stride length, and what is his stride frequency. Everything we will measure under the type of kinematics. For example, kinematics can be used to describe the motion of running back up the field. So what is the nature of motion, what is his movement, everything we will discuss here, but we will not discuss about the force. And kinematics can also be used in teaching, training, skill evaluation and sports events. So kinematics helps to teach, training and skill evaluation also. As a coach he can give a training, as a coach he can give a teaching. For example, if an athlete cover a distance in his stride length, it may be a 3 meters or 4 meters, a coach can show his stride length and he can recommend to increase the length of the stride length, and he can give some guidance, he can give some supports, he can give some drills to increase the performance. That is comes under the kinematics. And what is the meaning of kinetics? Already we have seen the big difference between the kinetics and the kinematics. Here also I would like to emphasize that it deals with forces and motion only, and it reveals how the forces affect the motion. Here we are taking the important to the forces, how the force give the support to increase the performance. For example, if an athlete sit in the starting block, if he want to rise from the starting block to first stride, he must create the force on the uh, uh, on the Dear students, here we are going to see about the kinetics. Already we have seen the difference between the kinetics and kinematics. Here also I would like to emphasize that it deals with forces and motion only, and it reveals how forces affect motion. For example, if we'll talk about the 100-meter sprinter, initially he used to sit in the starting block. After the gun sound, he must start his running stride from the starting block to first stride. So he must create the force on the starting block, and according to the creating force, the effect of force, he may move from the starting block to first stride. Here we are measuring his force. Through the force, his motion is evaluation. And here we are giving more importance to the force. So likewise, if we create and we will discuss about the force and his motion, that is comes under the kinetics. At the same time, if we travel from the start to up to finish, he may create the force on the surface. So how much force he is creating? So how he can avoid the frictional force. So likewise, if you will see about that, that is comes under the kinetics. Same way, if you talk about the long jumper should create the force on the takeoff board. Otherwise, he cannot go fly and he cannot get the performance. So how much force he must create on the takeoff board. Likewise, we will discuss about that. That is comes under the kinetics. And kinetics is the study of the relationship between the force acting on the body and how those forces affect the motion. These are all the two important terms here we are discussing. One is force, another one is motion. So, what is the nature of force and what is the effect of motion? So both are playing a vital role to decide the performance. For example, if we create the more force, so we can cover the more distance. We can easily overcome the gravitational pull, and we can avoid the frictional forces. So force is very important. At the same time, if we will not create the more force, automatically the gravitational force reduce the motion, and the frictional force also affect to roll on the particular surfaces. So these are all the important points we will discuss under the kinetics. In sports, kinetic is how the body absorb ground force and transfer it to the next segment. Already have discussed about that. So what is the ground force? How we are transferring? So one place to another place, how we are moving, what is our force, how we are struggling to move from one place to another place. This pattern is called a kinetic sequence. For example, we move from one place to another place. What is our force? What is our motion? This movement, this pattern is called as kinetic sequence, and each skill require a unique kinetic and kinematic sequence. So both are important, kinetic as well as the kinematic also important. And kinetic we are discussing about the force and motion, and kinematic we are discussing about the geometry measurements we are taking here. So that is called as kinetic and kinematics. And what is the meaning of sports biomechanics? In last class, we have seen about the biomechanics. Here we are emphasizing about the sports biomechanics. The same definition, it may be defined as a science which examines the internal and external forces acting on the athlete. Here I would emphasize the word that is called as athlete, and the athletic implements in use and the effect reduced by these forces. Here I have added two important words. One is athlete, another one is athletic implement. Here the internal force and external forces. Sometimes we may create the force, sometimes external force may come. When on the athlete and the athletic implements, sometimes we may use a javelin or discus or shot put, whatever may be. So how we are creating the force on athlete or the athletic implements, and what is the effect? It may be a reduce or it may be increase through the force. So here we are taking it to internal force and external force on athlete or the implements. What is the effect? So sports biomechanics discussed about the purely discussed about an athlete or the athletic implements. And sports biomechanics determine how the parts of the body move during the performance of a motor skill. So this is also very important. So sports biomechanics, when you are doing the different type of movements, what is our body parts moving, whether it is advantage move or disadvantage move, whether it will affected by the air resistance, or it will affected by the water resistance, or it will affect by the our nature of movement, or it will affect by our locomotor movement. Everything we will discuss under the title of the sports biomechanics. Not only movement of our body parts, at the same time we will discuss about the implements also, how we should move our implement. It may be a cricket bat, it may be a tennis racket, it may be a ball badminton racket, or it may be he may be a gymnast, or whatever may be, how the athlete or the athletic implement must to move to increase the performance. What is the lacuna to increase the performance of. So everything we will discuss under the title of sports biomechanics. And what are the need and the importance of sports biomechanics? Here we have a list. I will read one by one to evaluate the existing technique. Yes, so already we have some existing technique, so we must evaluate whether it is right or wrong. For example, in high jump, initially we used to get the good performance with the scissor technique and other dive roll, everything we have done. Now we are using the Fosbury flap to increase the performance because we evaluate the existing technique, so we are using their new techniques. In same way, in all the sports and games, we are using new techniques with the help of existing technique. With how we are getting the new technique through the sports biomechanics, the researches are going on in the field of sports biomechanics. They are recommending after their conclusion, so we are following the new techniques for learning the existing techniques. So we can learn the existing technique. Already some techniques are there, we must learn. So for example, in football free kick, how can we kick? We don't know, so we must learn it from the existing technique. So we should teach to the others with the help of the existing technique. For training techniques, so we must have a technique, we must get a training. So for this purpose, sports biomechanics we need. For example, our neck joint. Our neck joint, we have only the neck joint is called as pivot joint. We cannot rotate. This comes under the kinesiology. And how can we move the neck? That is comes under the biomechanics. So the training techniques also. Same way in sports application also. To find out a fault during techniques executions. Yes, when we execute the skills, so what are the fault we are doing? So everything we can reduce with the help of sports biomechanics. What is the movement of our body parts? What is the movement of our bat or rocket? Everything we can measure, we can reduce the faults. To know the reason for fault execution of techniques, yes, we can easily understand why we are committing the mistake. What is the reason behind that? Whether it is the movement of the joint, or whether it is the contraction relaxation of the muscles, whether the movement of all the body parts, whether the movement of the implements, so we can easily evaluate. And to correct the fault execution of techniques, so easily we can find out the fault, and we can give the corrections also. Not only finding fault, at the same time we can give a correct answer to the fault. And to develop new techniques, already we have seen, so we can develop new techniques. In sports and games, lot of games are coming, so lot of techniques are there, so we can give a new techniques with the help of the sports biomechanics. Then quantification of various motor abilities. So motor abilities, what are the motor abilities? We must recommend for the individual to individual. Some of the motor abilities we need not to give for everyone. Some of the motor abilities we must give for some specific individual, so that we can quantify the motor abilities for the individual. And for analyzing techniques, so this is the major field in the sports biomechanics. So we can easily analyze the techniques. For example, we can capture the movements of the player, and after completing his session we can analyze his technique. We can easily show the particular player, so what is the mistake he is committing and how can we rectify. Sometimes we can take these videos and we can easily compare with the elite player also. And to develop new techniques and quantifying the various motor abilities, already we have seen. And to make investigation, to make investigation, we can do lot of research in the area of sports biomechanics, and for experimental studies we can do it and bring advanced science into the field of sports, because in sports now, the sports biomechanics is entirely occupying this all the sports. For example, in cricket, without help of sports biomechanics, it now in the cricket will not come to this stage. Same way in cricket, same way in football, same way in tennis, because they are easily measuring the movement to movement. They are analyzing all the movements and all the seconds of a particular player. So advance science in the field of sports, and to develop mechanical principles as gene orientation, to develop the mechanical principles. So what is the movement of the joint, everything we can develop with the help of sports biomechanics to bring advanced play field. For example, now we are using the different type of astroturf and synthetic field and a lot of surfaces, different type of surfaces we are using with the help of the research of sports biomechanics to develop advanced sportswear. So for example, we are using different types of sportswear. Swimmers are using different sportswears, and athletes are using different sportswears, and each game players are using different sportswears because the recommendation by the sports biomechanics. Up to this, we will stop this class, and next class we will discuss about planes and axis of human body. And dear students, thank you for your patient listening. Thank you very much.